Welcome to another Superior Health Wednesday. Joined as always, Jim LaJoy, Executive Director of Superior Health Foundation. Welcome back and thanks for being here.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah. So today we are talking about the entire grant process. We're taking the mystery away. How does it all work? What do people need to know about it? And I think one of the best ways to get into it is what are all the different types of grants? We've talked about so many over the past few
Yeah,
months.
yeah, yeah. This was really a session in Grants 101, and we're trying to really get people to think about how can I apply for a grant, what's out there, and what's the process like. And to answer your initial question, we have just a whole number of different types of grants, and I'll start with the ones that we accept monthly. And these grants are equipment grants and pilot project grants. And both of these grants are up to $2,500. Equipment is basically any type of health related equipment that helps with the health and well-being of people. We look at those for equipment grants. And then our pilot project grants, which we addressed, I think, in an earlier session, are really those seed projects. You got a really good idea about something. You don't really quite know how to get it off the ground, but you need a little bit of money to at least try it. And this is an opportunity to apply for up to $2,500 for those as well. But the good news is that if it's accepted, there's a good chance that we will look at it again in one of our other funding periods. So those grants are up to $2,500. We also do indigent care grants once a year. That's in the spring. Those are grants of up to $5,000 for health center nonprofits in the UP that have those types of funds that address the indigent population to help them with, out-of-pocket expenses, drugs, medication, those types of things. So we do those, and then we also have our fall and spring grants. We just got done with our spring grant celebration where we awarded close to $275,000 in grants, and these are grants that can be, any size really. There's not a minimum. Our average grant for those is usually typically around $17,000, $18,000. We have given out grants during our fall and spring grant cycles as large as $50,000 and probably as small as $600,000. But these are grants that we awarded both of those cycles, spring and fall. And our fall grant cycle will actually be coming up June 1st to July 1st. People say, well, aren't we starting summer, June 1st, July 1st? Yes, but we're awarding the fall grants in the fall. So there's really something for everyone and a number of different opportunities for people to look at what's out there and to see what area that they would like to apply for funding for to help their particular project.
And that's one of the great things. Whatever your idea is, whether it's this huge thing or you're just getting it off the ground, you have something that fits every idea. And that's what you do. You listen to ideas first. You talk to people. And one of the things that stuck out to me was that you said you don't say no. You say maybe not now, or you at least listen through some of these ideas and help people find what their best fit is. Because people have ideas. They want to help address health-related issues in the UP, but they need to understand the process. How does this all work? How do I get started?
Yeah, and that's a really good point. In fact, it's really telling because just this morning, I talked to a nonprofit leader who called and said, I'll bounce some ideas off of you. I think I have an idea for a grant. And it turns out the idea and where I directed the nonprofit leader to apply was not the grant that she initially had in mind. She was going to go in a different direction. And after listening to what her situation was, I advised her to go in a different direction to apply for grant funding. And, that's what we're here for. And we want to be able to work with people and, find out what their needs are and to make that process as simple as possible. And to that end, Ben, we've really tried to simplify our grant process as much as we possibly can. For our grants that we award for equipment and pilot project grants, it's a very easy application, probably takes 15, 20 minutes to apply for. We're not interested in people going through a long list of things and going through red tape. we know people will want to get funded. But by the same token, we have to have all the right pieces in place in order to put it to our grants committee to have a real unified decision in terms of what we're going to be funding. And, we try to streamline that process the best we possibly can and work with those grantees on their projects and try to look for ways that will help their cause and strengthen their cause when they're applying.
And I think that's one of the really nice things that I've learned that we've been talking about is that it's not just you find this website, you apply for it. It's that you're very involved with all these people through the process. You'll walk with them through each of these steps, and that you take the time and the care to help their ideas come to life. So once they've gotten their application together, they've gone through this, you talked about it goes to the grants committee. If you kind of talk about how that process works.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I think I'll back up just a little bit and just tell you about the system that we use. We use a system called Foundit, and it is one of the industry standards that is in grant making. There's a number of different ones that are out there, but we chose to go with this one because it's really user-friendly type software program where people just log on right to our system. They put in a username and password, and from there, they could just basically fill in the blanks. All the questions are there. It tells them how many words they have. It gives them an idea, and it's really a nice little template for them to use. And in those grant applications, there will be a spot there where they need to put information about their board of directors. They need to put information that proves that they're a 501c3 nonprofit. They need to have letters of support and different things. And if it doesn't have all that, before they submit it, they'll get a warning that'll say, you're missing this, you're missing that. One of the biggest issues that we've had with those submitting grants is when they get all done, they forget to submit the send button. And it doesn't even get into our system. It remains there. But we've been able to work with a number of organizations to help them with that process. But that's really streamlined it. And then from there, when we go into our grants and we have discussions, each one of our grant committee members has an opportunity to view everything right online. So they can look at the grant, what the request was, they can view the letters of support, and they can do their scoring. We have a scoring mechanism that's right online where with our spring and fall grants, there'll be questions. Does the project fit within our mission? Is the project sustainable? Does the project serve the areas that are important for the Superior Health Foundation? So there's a series of questions, and then you can put, the grant request is for this. How much would you recommend funding? So we put all that into it, and then from there, we're able to run a comprehensive report that when our grants committee meets, and some are in person, some are virtual, and we do it by video conferencing, I have the comments from all of the grant committee members going into it. And I have their scoring right in front of me, so I have a pretty good idea of what they're looking at before we begin the discussion. So in other words, if there's a grant that comes to us and we have six grant committee members, and they're from our board of directors that score these, and if all of them said yes to that, we're pretty much in agreement that we're going to fund that. So we'll have a small discussion, and then we'll come back to it and talk about what amounts there are, because we have to be judicious with the money that we have. We have a certain amount each period. And by the same token, Ben, there might be a grant that we get that 5 of the 6 people will say no. And then we'll go to the 6th person and say, okay, you had yes on this. Would you like to review it further? Yeah, I think I'd like to discuss it. So we do. And then we go through each grant individually and probably spend a good 20 minutes, sometimes to 45 minutes on each one of the grants. We talk about all sorts of things. And what's great about the committee structure is that we'll go into one of these sessions and somebody will, kind of have their mind made up that they want to fund a particular grant. Well, after we have this committee discussion, there may be things that come up in that discussion that somebody on the committee didn't look at, or there may be a new way of looking at it. And it's wonderful how that process really, really works. And, I've been at this a long time, and I can tell you that every time that we finish with these grant meetings, we're all on the same page and we all feel good about the decisions that we made, the organizations that we supported, the levels that we supported, because it's really a team process and a lot of teamwork goes into making those decisions.
And I'm sure coming out of those meetings, knowing that you've come to agreement or, decided to take a step back from some of these, knowing what that means for the people that brought these ideas to you. Like that's a big thing. That's helping not only their dreams be realized, but it's helping every time you come out of there and you approve another grant, that's something else that helps make our community better.
Absolutely. It's a wonderful feeling. We talk about this all the time. The hardest part that we probably have with our job is saying no to those organizations. But as we've talked about, we don't really like to say no. We like to say, come back to us with a different look. Oftentimes we're missing key information. I'll give you a perfect example. We had a grants committee meeting 2 weeks ago, and we turned down a grant application because it was missing key information. It wasn't clear in the application form what exactly they were looking for. And for those reasons, we turned it down. But we also agreed, let's go back to this organization to see if they could supply us additional information. So I reached out to the director, had the discussion, and it turns out they had the right ask, but they didn't frame it in the right way. They were missing some key information, and they realized it. And I said, well, now that we know that, I think we might want to fund this. We might want to relook at this. So they went back into the system, went back into our computerized founding system. They're going to shape up their grant, make some subtle changes to it, and we're going to review it again later this month. So, we want to make sure that we're not saying no to good projects. And we also understand that there's a human element to all of this. Nobody's perfect with filling out grant applications, and people may overlook things or they may forget certain things. And what we say to folks is we can only score on what's in front of us. We can't mind read, and we can't take leaps of faith and pretend that we think we know what you're talking about. So we work with those organizations the best that we possibly can to make sure that we have all the information in front of us so we can make very sound decisions based upon the criteria and the information that's presented to us.
And really, the only ones that you can't say yes to are the ones that people don't submit. So they have to get started. They have to get the ideas in there, have those initial conversations with you, and start forming their ideas and putting them into a way that that you can say yes to.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really good point. And on the other side of the coin, something that I would like to address as part of this discussion is a frustration that we have sometimes is that we'll get grant requests from organizations that don't fit our mission. And that is really, really unfortunate. And that's where we've talked about this in the past in previous segments, that if you have any kind of trepidation and if you're not quite sure that this fits within our funding guidelines, call me, email, and let's talk about it. Because, when we get an application from an organization, and it could be a really, really good application, but it doesn't fit with our mission. It doesn't fit into what we're doing. There's two things that happen there. Number one is you've wasted our time in having to go through that, where we know we're not even going to be able to score it. And number two, more importantly, you've wasted your own time when you could have been working on this and submitted it to an organization that would consider it. So that's incredibly important. And we tell folks all the time, read our mission statement. You need to understand the types of things that we have funded and what we're looking for, and to kind of reach out and have those discussions. I had another call about a week or so ago from an organization up in the Copper Country. They did exactly the right thing and the types of things that we're talking about right now. They were looking at our grant application. They had an idea for something, but they were kind of on the fringe. They said, well, this may be a capital project, and I know you don't fund capital projects, but it's improving health. So can I call you? Absolutely. Had a nice 10, 15-minute conversation. I encouraged them to apply because it was one of those projects that related to equipment, but it was definitely a game changer in terms of improving health. Had we not had that discussion, they probably would not have applied. So we'll be looking at that application in the fall cycle.
That's excellent. That's huge. And that's a good point of you want it to be mindful of everybody's time to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward in the right direction that it's supposed to go. So it's not, I guess if you haven't done it yet, it might seem complicated, but that's why you're there to help people make sense of all this and to help them find out it's the right thing. And that's why you have all that information that's available online that they can read on, educate themselves first. Having that online form system that lets you know if you're missing a step, that all these things are put in place to make sure that you're getting the best shot at this possible.
Absolutely. And, and that really helps our grants committee as well. And, it provides really a nice tool for them to be able to go through and check the boxes. Did they do this? Did they do that? Have they completed this part of it? And, by and large, a majority of the grant applications that we get are really well done. And every now and then we get one that's missing some information or is very, very shallow. And what we try to tell people is, be as specific as you possibly can be. If you have a request for something, make sure that what the request that you're asking for is specific. Make sure that your budget aligns with the request, because we've talked about this before, that if you have a project that is $5,215.45, that's what you need to ask for. You don't round it off to $5,500 hoping you're going to get an extra $200. That's not what we do. We are very specific. And if there's one area that I think folks struggle with, but this is by nature for a lot of people, it is budgets and aligning budgets and making sure that those line up. And our organizations that we have worked with over the years, we've done a lot of training with them, done a lot of work with them. And, they've done a much, much better job with that. And, we're really proud of their efforts of putting that time and energy into it.
Good. I think we've gone through most of it. Is there anything that we haven't talked about as far as grants that you want to make sure that people understand?
Well, I think the one thing we want people to know is, where do you go? How do you find these grants on our website? There you go. There's one that's really, really important, because we don't want you to go to our website, do a search, and get frustrated. So it's pretty simple. You go to superiorhealthfoundation.org. At the top part of the screen, there's a number of different buttons. There's one that says grants. Just click that on. When you click that on, there will be a link to equipment grants. There will be a link to our pilot project grants. When we have our proactive grant giving grants, those are there, as well as our spring and fall grants. So you just click that on, and once you go to that site, it's pretty easy. If you haven't been in the system before and you're applying for a grant for the first time, you need to register your name, put a password, and once you have that, you're good to go. And you get started on your process, and it makes it really easy for people. Because we get that question. I want to apply for a grant, but I don't know how. I don't know where to go to. Well, there it is. It's right there on our website. Easy to find, easy to navigate. And if people have questions as they're filling out a grant and they're confused, they can just call Superior Health Foundation office, 906-225-6914. And any one of us would be happy to help you and guide you on that path to make it as easy and painless as possible.
And for anybody listening to our conversation today, we'll make it even easier. You don't even have to type it in. We'll put the link just down below with the phone number as well. So just trying to take away every obstacle we can so people can get connected with the right folks, with you all.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Perfect.
It's all about helping people, Ben, and it's all about providing those resources and giving people an opportunity to help their organization and give them the tools that they need to strengthen what they're already doing.
Well, with all this information, they should be off to a good start, but if not, they know that they have a good place to go to ask questions. Thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
Continue to provide this for the Upper Peninsula. So
You bet.
We'll talk to you on the next Superior Health Foundation Superior Health Wednesday.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye.